Hi, hey, hello. My name is Gavin, and welcome to a new episode of Weird Existence. Welcome to 2025. I hope you all are staying happy, healthy, and safe out there. Today, I'm talking about the TikTok ban. For those of you who don't know, for those of you who may have forgotten as time is creeping up on us, we are 4 days away from the TikTok ban going into effect, and from what a lot of people have come to as an understanding, TikTok goes black. Servers get shut off, and even if you are still able to access TikTok using a VPN, you're going to have to create a new account because the servers are getting wiped, and there goes your account with all of your likes and all of your saved reposts, so on and so forth. So a lot of people, kind of understandably, are expressing their frustration about this app that they have put 5 years into, have been able to form whole communities to sustain their businesses and make new friendships and share their music, just so on and so forth. This has been a big app for a lot of people's lives. Today, I'm going to focus on two bigger segments with, some other commentary filling in, talking about their disappointment with the TikTok ban. But today's episode is going to be focusing on two clips again. One from a Matthew Schuham, who is a reporter who covered a story about essentially prisons getting ready to scale for ICE deportation, as well as another individual named Jane who has high-functioning autism, making their case for why TikTok is important for community building and for those with autism. So I hope you all listen to this full episode. It is going to be a lengthier one, but I do think that it will be worth it. Either way, let's get into this first clip with Matthew Schuham.
What were private prison executives saying 2 days after Donald Trump won the presidential election on a campaign platform of mass deportations of undocumented people? Let's listen to them.
We have assured ICE of our capability to rapidly scale up our capabilities to monitor and oversee several hundreds of thousands or even several millions of individuals.
The GEO Group was built for this unique moment in our country's history.
We're heading into an era that we really haven't seen maybe only once or twice in a company's history, where the value proposition of the private sector for both our state partners and our federal partners are going to be not only strong today, but even stronger as we go into the next couple of years. We do think that there's going to be increased need for detention capacity.
My name is Matt Schuham. I've been a professional journalist for about 9 years, and I'm currently a staff reporter on the national desk at HuffPost. Donald Trump and his team have said they're pursuing mass deportations, and while they probably won't be able to deport all 11 million undocumented people currently living in the United States, they do have immense power to increase the number of deportations that happen every year. And that will probably include paying a lot of tax dollars to private prison corporations. The audio you just heard came from earnings calls from 2 private prison companies 2 days after Election Day. The calls are public and available online. I reported on them on November 7th. The companies, GEO Group and CoreCivic, have seen their stock shares spike since the election. That's partially because they're expecting to receive larger contracts from ICE, Immigration and Customs Enforcement, which is responsible for arresting and jailing people facing deportation. Here's George Zoli, the founder and executive chair of the board at GEO Group.
We're looking at a theoretical potential doubling of all of our services, whether it's in the detention segment, in the transportation segment, as well as the ISAP program. Well, I think it'll require a kind of a triage of where you put these individuals. I think the higher security people will be in existing, secure facilities. As you descend down into the lower levels, it could result in the need for some soft-sided facilities around the country.
And here's CEO Brian Evans talking about ground and air transportation contracts.
And we believe we have the capabilities to expand the provision of these services to assist ICE in moving several hundreds of thousands of additional individuals if needed.
Then there's digital and physical surveillance, things like ankle bracelets and cell phone apps for people who are inside the country going to immigration court hearings. These programs are known as Alternatives to Detention, or ATD. The main one is called ISAP, or Intensive Supervision Appearance Program. A GEO Group subsidiary currently has the only contract for this program. Here's GEO Group President and COO Wayne Calabrese.
We expect the incoming Trump administration to take a much more expansive approach to monitoring the several millions of individuals who are currently on the non-detained immigrant docket. We have assured ICE of our capability to rapidly scale up our capabilities to monitor and oversee several hundreds of thousands or even several millions of individuals in order to achieve the federal government's immigration law compliance objectives.
The day after the presidential election, ICE announced a December 2nd Industry Day, which is basically their opportunity to talk to surveillance companies about expanding this program. I actually asked if it was open to the press, but they said it wasn't because there could have been a discussion of proprietary information. But here is a Q&A document that ICE posted online after the event, which, this was posted, I guess, a couple days ago. There are some important caveats here. First, lots of undocumented people living in the United States do have some level of legal protection from deportation, like DACA recipients or people with temporary protected status. Even if Trump attacks these programs like he did in his first term, there will be a court battle over what happens next. Second, private prison companies tend to do pretty well no matter who's in office. Also, Joe Biden has continued Donald Trump's aggressive restrictions on asylum rights for people who arrive at the southern border. That's an article I wrote about it. Here are some more resources to learn about how Joe Biden has restricted the right to asylum at the southern border. Also, in recent history, no one's deported more people from the interior of the country than Barack Obama. Finally, like I said, these are audio clips from earnings calls where corporations are basically talking to shareholders and potential shareholders, so take what they're saying with a grain of salt. Still, the executive branch has a ton of power to deport people who've already been through the immigration court system and received a final order of deportation, and that's over 1 million people. And the Trump administration is going to put a lot of pressure on police departments, sheriff's offices, city and county governments to cooperate with ICE if someone who's arrested locally happens to be an undocumented person. The whole point of the sanctuary city movement is to establish that localities don't cooperate with ICE when it comes to turning people over to be deported who happen to have been arrested for something like jaywalking. My colleague Roque Planas and I wrote an article recently with some background on all of this stuff, and it's available at huffpost.com.
I think this is a strong example of what TikTok was able to do in a way for sharing journalists' perspective compared to some of the older platforms like Meta and X. Here we have Matt Schumann just kind of breaking down their article, and it had its own ripple effects in my life. I decided to go look up Matt Schumann on LinkedIn and read the article myself, and it was funny because while doing so, I was able to find a comment that someone else had left saying, "Hey, I saw you on TikTok and came to support your work here. You did such an excellent job presenting clear and evidence-based information without any bias whatsoever. It deeply concerns me as a refugee and asylum seeker human rights defender that this is even a thing. I've been talking about monitoring tech development built to target Palestinian people being adapted to target undocumented people for a while. Therefore, this is not a new topic to me, but to actually hear your recording of private prison executives so openly discussing their plans to profit from the upcoming administration deportation policies, like children counting the days until Christmas, it was pretty scary. Again, thank you for bringing this to light. One of the most important aspects, I think, about Matt Schumann being able to share their article is being able to break it down themselves in a way that is approachable. It is making this topic something easier to understand for the general populace, and in my head, there is no downside to that. So for these next 3 clips, I'm actually just going to play them in rapid succession. So in order, these next clips are from user Brian Andrew Music, Soupy Time, and Dark Mangaka, expressing their frustration with the TikTok ban. See you after the clips.
Because if TikTok's really about to be banned this time, I'm going to start saying how I really fucking feel. I might lose followers for what I'm about to say, but I want y'all to listen close, because I'm going to say this shit with my whole fucking chest this time. Y'all ready? The United States government, who historically can't agree on a fucking thing, agreed on banning an app before they ever did a single fucking thing to help stop your kids from getting killed in their fucking classrooms. And I'm going to double down on that shit. Y'all thought I was done? Fuck nah. If as many CEOs got shot and killed in this country as kids who get shot and killed in their fucking schools, then the government might actually fucking do something about it. Let that one fucking marinate. National fucking security risk? Yeah, fucking right.
Hey mom, the world's kinda fucked up, and I really didn't think that I'd be sad this much, but I guess being happy is just easier said than done. Well, hey mom.
Fascist countries ban apps. Fascist countries ban websites. Fascist countries ban apps and websites under the guise of threats to national security, when every other country knows it's about suppressing the free speech of its citizens. If the government believes that a single app could, quote from the hearing on the 10th, skew the perspective of American citizens to be anti-American, maybe the real problem is that American citizens are already in such a state of political unrest and unhappiness that our government is scared a single foreign influence could tip the scale and have it all be over. Don't you think that by taking away the, and I quote, key communications channel of Americans, it's gonna make those 170 million Americans a little more anti-American? Maybe Congress knows and understands that. Maybe the government knows that the backlash it will receive from banning TikTok does not outweigh the threats that come with its existence. Not in a matter of national security, but in a matter of being the most popular news and media outlet that the government cannot control, like American-owned broadcasting networks and publications. Maybe, if this was actually a national security concern, the government would be banning all Chinese-developed apps, like Shein and Temu, that collect the exact same amount of data as TikTok. Because maybe it knows TikTok is something special. You can't politically organize on Temu. If TikTok goes dark, the government deliberately and knowingly took away your free speech. Do not accept national security for an answer, ever.
I won't be able to sell my manga much longer because TikTok's shutting down. I lose 40,000 fans, I lose the community I built here, and worst of all, I lose you. Lemonade will be its successor, and I'm on there. But they're not carrying over any of the followers, which means I have to start over from ground zero. Plus, they don't have a shop, so if you haven't already, please consider grabbing a copy of my mangas before I can no longer reach you. and you can see the bio to keep up with what's going on. Hit up Lemonade, Discord, or any of the other socials that are there. I had honestly been dreading this moment, but I had been holding out hope that for some reason, maybe, this wasn't going to go through and I wasn't going to have to start all over. But I will give a message of hope, because this isn't going to stop me, and the stories are going to keep on coming out that you love so much.
I wanted to end with Dark Mangaka because in my head, it was just a clear example with the video, the message of the disappointment, the sadness of losing their community, losing 40,000 followers, those who enjoyed his manga, like the series that he was working on. And I know that at the very end, Dark Mangaka was able to end with a message of hope on that platform about Lemonade and moving forward, and I do hope that they are able to find their community in the future, wherever they decide to end up. But this is something that is just going to disrupt a lot more than just Dark Mangaka's community. It's disrupting all of them on TikTok. But again, with these messages... with these sad messages going out on TikTok, saying their final goodbyes, there are those taking this moment to do some final skits, to do some final bits, and to try and spread some final pieces of joy on the platform that they've known for the last couple of years. And doing so in a way that references, what the U.S. government claims is the issue, that they got Chinese spies watching all of us. So with this next clip, I'm going to be playing, it's from user Yanzhao1003.
Hello guys, this is your Chinese spy speaking. I want to post this video before it's too late. I guess we are not going to see each other again in the future. That's why I have something to say. It is a great honor to spy on you for the last few years. I wish you all have a great life in the future. Now is something personal. Laura from California, you shouldn't drink that much Coca-Cola. It is bad for your health. And also Peter from New York, your mama loves you. You shouldn't treat her like that, okay? And Stephanie from Texas, don't send your nude picture to the guy called Marvin. He's a fuckboy. He's talking to other girls as well. Nice deeds, by the way. I think that's all I have to say. Bye-bye, guys. Bye-bye.
Then we see others in a Bo Burnham-esque fashion making fun of our government, saying, what the fuck are you doing? Making TikTok the biggest issue, not everything else? So yeah, obviously I have to play that next clip.
But if you're asking me, the biggest problem is TikTok. It's not global warming. It's not access to healthcare, welfare, boring. Corruption at the top. Citizens getting shot. With all that's going on right now, it's the perfect time for banning TikTok, baby. We're coming for your TikTok, baby. No, the most important problem's TikTok, baby. We're coming for you, TikTok, baby, for sure.
So I'm only going to play one more clip in this little section, which I am deeming the comedic points of, frustration. This next audio clip is from a video posted by Red Choi, and they're just making fun of our U.S. senators and just how much of a struggle it was during the TikTok hearings and how tunnel vision they were. Either way, you'll hear for yourself. Listen to the clip.
So, are you Chinese? No. So you are Chinese? No. No. Is that how they pronounce yes in Chinese?
No, I'm Singaporean.
Sifu, we're not asking about your sexual orientation, okay? We're asking if you are indeed Chinese. What? No, Singapore is a country. Hey, I ain't judging. Some people like countries and some people like dictators. What we want to know is if you are in fact a member of the Chinese Communist Party. Senator, I'm trying to tell you, I'm from Singapore. It's a nation like the United States. Okay, and what language do Singapiggers speak? Mandarin? I knew it, the same language that damn Chinese speak. You're Chinese. Sir, what language do you speak? Ha, we speak English in America. And what language do they speak in England? Ha, English. Whoa. What kind of Kung Fu Panda Jack Black magic are you working here, boy?
No, I'm just trying to make a point. Just because some countries all speak the same language doesn't mean that they're all the same country.
Does that mean I'm Chinese? Oh.
While some people are saying their goodbyes, expressing their frustration, others joking about the stupid situation that we have found ourselves in, there are others that are still spearheading this conversation, that there is nothing out there like TikTok, that the communities, the way that we've been able to express ourselves through the platform has been unlike anything that we've seen before, and that it provided a massive amount of support and community to those with autism, especially for those who would classify as high functioning and as adults wouldn't classify for any support. So up next is a bit of a longer message, but again, an extremely important one from a user called Jane the Message, speaking on their experience with autism and how TikTok helped them.
Hello, my name is Jane, and I'm doing this video because Dr. Sarah Hensley said you might actually show this to Congresspeople and representatives, why TikTok matters. I am a citizen with autism, and I was diagnosed December 19th, 2019. When I was diagnosed, I was told that there were no resources for autistic adults like myself. I would be classified as level 1. If you're familiar, you probably wouldn't label me as high functioning because you may have antiquated language about this condition. I would have been labeled as gifted as a child, and I went to a school for gifted learning disabled children because my brother has dyscalculia. And as you may know, autism is highly heritable, as opposed to being inflicted on people by vaccines or other pseudoscientific explanations of our condition. And it is something that is present clearly in my mother and my father, and was present in my grandfather, who was a prodigy nuclear physicist who worked on the atom bomb in the Manhattan Project, and then spent the rest of his career teaching ethics and physics as a professor. And then my grandmother, on my mother's side, who I believe I inherited it from, was a head nurse at San Francisco General Hospital, which has since been renamed in honor of Mark Zuckerberg. When I got my diagnosis, I was told that since there were no resources, I could try to look for a Facebook group, which is owned by Meta, the people who lobbied heavily to remove an application that they don't understand is helping autistic people. I bring this up because while we are covered under the Americans with Disabilities Act, there is no meaningful enforcement, and there is no curiosity to the actual life outcomes for your citizens who have this kind of struggle. We face under and unemployment at a higher rate than probably you are conscious of, at estimated about 85% or more. And even though we are very willing to work, there's a stat I found that said about 79% of us express extreme desire to be a working member of society that is producing something constructive that we can be proud of. We are unable to, due to systemic barriers that are poorly understood, because once again, our condition is mired in pseudoscience, which you are going to be hearing about for the next 4 years. While it is far from ideal for your citizens to rely on for-profit applications to manage their neurodevelopmental disability and the impairments and struggles that they live with. It's not responsible for you to be unaware that we exist, and that this app has been meaningfully impactful in improving those conditions, helping people to feel less of a burden, less alone, which reduces our extremely high ideation and completion rate of mortal self-harm. This is something I would greatly appreciate that you took some time to look into studies on, as it's been very well documented and it hasn't been recently updated. So perhaps you could do that in light of what's happened post-pandemic, since there is so much economic strife. And you can imagine people that are already facing chronic under and unemployment are not going to be doing well either. We are people who have intellectual disabilities at times, but often we don't. And those of us without them, because you believe that that is protective in a way that it isn't in our society, we're expected to be doing much better than we are, and we are not. Much of our issues are coming from the poor understanding and public interest in what our disability, what our difference, what our neurodiversity actually is. I like very much to read studies about this. I would very much appreciate more grants and research going into this, but I don't see this incoming government doing that, and I have not seen any government do that so far. So then we have to be able to talk to each other. You do not have any similar mechanism, any similar application, any similar platform, certainly not the one that lobbied for you, that provides that for this population who desperately needs it. You're not going to do it. We have to do it for each other. We have a hard time connecting with each other. Many of us have realized that we have autism because of this app, because of understanding that these struggles that we're privately enduring were actually products of having a difference in perceiving, processing, and being able to relate to the world. I probably will never be in a position of power like you because I cannot navigate hierarchies the way that you do, and our current social structure is completely reliant on very convoluted social hierarchies and popularity. Autistic people are often not popular. Autistic people are often bullied. When someone speaks about free speech, they're also speaking about creating opportunities for abusive people to point at us as targets for ongoing isolation and ostracization for being different in ways that often people enjoy ridiculing. This population needs a way to speak to each other. You are not going to provide that as a government, and this app miraculously did. If you have any other solutions that are not just lip service to the problems that we face, I would appreciate that you gave more time and attention to this now that you've heard me speak about how this app happened to create solutions and meaningful change, which again, I invite people to write about in the comments. If that is outside of your time because you have committed yourself to other problems and people with disabilities are a very low priority to you, that is not surprising, but it would be unethical for you to not take some time to learn more about us and to learn more about where the research really is and to be prepared for misinformation, which the applications you expect us to go to have no standards for. So this is why it's important for you to take some time to consider this seriously and not look at us with contempt or neglect, but see us as citizens who are also owed the privileges and promises that you have said citizens are entitled to. We have a hard time accessing them. We are hard workers. We are imaginative people. But right now we're lost in daydreams of fulfilling our aspiration and potential for contributing to society, often as artists and scientists. There's also a STEM area on this app so that people like me can take an interest in developing themselves. You do not have the resources to give us, and we do not have the resources to help ourselves. So an app where we can simply speak about and work out these problems is life-changing. I don't know if you can relate or empathize to being in that position. I've been in it my whole life. I don't want to doubt your ability to imagine what that's like, but I'd like you to try. And then consider that it's very useful for there to be a place where people like me can become stronger and more informed citizens who can then advocate for our rights on a scale and on a stage that you're more comfortable with, familiar with, and expect us to show up at. But we're not going to do that when we are afraid, alone, isolated, and feel like a burden on society. This app has changed that. for many of us.
If you want to hear other powerful stories like this, then really what you need to do is download TikTok and listen to them before, the servers go dark. Either way, the next segment that I'm moving into, talking about in this podcast, is what other users are shifting towards with the TikTok ban looming. So, we're going to be talking about Xiaohongshu, or Little Red Book, or RedNote. For a little bit of background information, and what you need to know is that Xiaohongshu, or Little Red Book, RedNote, is a combination of Pinterest, TikTok, and Instagram all swirled into one. It is fairly clean from what it sounds like. The biggest commentary now with TikTok is people moving over to RedNote. And the fact that in ways they're gleefully learning Chinese, a new language. And I just kind of have to laugh as well that this is all coinciding with people's probably New Year's resolutions and like moving into 2025. But yeah, no, we're seeing this commentary of we're not going to move back to Meta. We're not going to move back to the cesspools that are X in what they've become. And when the US has made such an emphasis on national security, that TikTok was a Chinese app, for then all of these users to say, no, fuck you, we don't care anymore who has our data, to turn directly to a Chinese-owned version of TikTok, even more so than what we currently had, is fascinating. It's a fascinating show of rebellion in the 21st century. This first clip is from a user called The Real Corn Pop, and it is them talking about their experience with moving over to RedNote. And I think it was a funny introduction to, hey, people in TikTok, people are moving in platforms.
The absolute funniest thing that has happened in the last 48 hours is that people really went and downloaded RedNote. I did too. But it's even funnier because now people are there on TikTok, on RedNote, and people are talking about learning Chinese. And I've already seen some of the people who follow me, because enough of you guys comment on my videos enough, I recognize some of your usernames, and they're doing little exercises to learn the different sounds in Chinese. That is fucking awesome. That is so funny. And I also love that there's already drama on RedNote where actual Chinese citizens are saying, hey, get off this app. hey, stop invading the app. Hey, we use this for recommendations. We're sorry that your government sucks, but don't ruin our shit. And all the Americans are just like, hey, I'm just going to scooch on in there. Just let me get Maya. So deeply unserious. Oh my God, I love it so much.
The next clip I'm about to play is from user Jimmy Kryak. It's his analysis of the RedNote situation, people moving over, and how, yeah, this really is a moment of massive defiance from the American people. And in a way, it's people taking their agency back over their data.
This sudden shift we are seeing of users from TikTok going to the Chinese app RedNote is a fascinating and stark commentary that speaks to a significant failure on part of the US government that started over 20 years ago. So back in the aftermath of 9/11, the US government introduced this thing called the Patriot Act, and it operated under the assumption that members of the American public would be okay with giving up their privacy in the interest of security. We could ensure national security by having more access to information that could expose potential threats to that national security. Which means at the time, the government leveraged your privacy as an individual, as a human being, And they said that's not worth it. It is more important that we guarantee security, that we guarantee safety, which means that your phone calls and your text messages and your emails and your data was free for them to access, as long as it meant that they got to ensure security and safety. And what resulted from this is an entire generation, in fact, 2 generations, who have grown up in an environment where they have been told and conditioned to believe that their data, their information, is not sacred. It is open for access. It is constantly being leveraged in this interest of security, which means to them it has no value. This entire aged range of people who know they are being constantly surveilled, who know that they are being watched all the time and that their data is being monitored all the time, don't care about it. What they do care about is who has access to it and what they're doing with it. And they choose to be defiant in light of that when their individual rights are infringed upon. This means that the US government overplayed their hand by saying TikTok is taking user data and giving it to China, giving it to the Chinese government. They revealed, we value that, even though we know that's not actually what it is. But this gave us, all the people here, the power to say, it's our data. We can do with it what we want. So this massive move over to RedNote is a huge, incredible act of defiance in light of this idea that, like, well, yeah, it's our data. We can give it out. We just don't want you to have it. Or not so much, we don't want you to have it. You can no longer control it. You've raised us to believe that you get free, unfettered access, and now we are saying no. So let this serve as a reminder to you all, you have more power than you think, and you have way more power than they want you to have.
So as the story continues to unfold and we see how Zhao Hongshu becomes a part of Americans' lives, or specifically those that, you know, moving over from TikTok to the app, we're going to look at why it might not stick around either. That the TikTok ban is honestly, again, reaching for more than just TikTok when it comes to legislative. That other apps, other forms of media, other forms of entertainment and things that you enjoy could be at risk. This next clip is from a user named DannyPhantom.exe.
Hey, I'd like to remind you all that the TikTok ban isn't actually just a TikTok ban. The bill that allows the US government to ban TikTok in the United States, TikTok's just the start. This is just the beginning. HR 7521, aka Protecting Americans from Foreign Advisory Controlled Applications Act, doesn't just ban TikTok. TikTok is just the example they're using for what they can ban. Basically, the entire bill states that if a foreign company outside of the United States is operating an application or website within the United States and the United States find them to be operating in some kind of unlawful way, that the company must stop operating unless the company sells the website or application to the United States. This is not a ban. This is the United States trying to consolidate power and media. The United States is saying, oh, we're trying to ban TikTok because of security reasons. When have they ever cared about security? Facebook has been stealing information for years. Google, information for years. But they're US operated. So it doesn't matter, right? Because the United States gets to control the narrative. They want to ban TikTok because they want to buy TikTok so they can control what you see. They want to control your data, your information, your voice. This is not about protecting Americans. This is about consolidating power. Do not let them. But we don't really have much of a choice, do we? So good luck to us. Let's go.
So with 4 days left, there are steps that you can take if you want to try and help save TikTok. The biggest thing is you can reach out to your Senate or congressional, like, House members. Funnily enough, through TikTok. TikTok users have compiled all of the the majority of the members that do have accounts on the platform, and you could go scream at them through their personal accounts. Another big thing is people are actively deciding to deactivate and delete their Meta and X accounts and move on to other platforms. At this point, I don't think it's a matter of if, but a matter of when I delete my Meta and X accounts. Just as of the policy rollbacks with Meta getting rid of their fact checkers, getting rid of policies that would allow people to say those that are trans individuals are mentally ill on their platform. I can't support that shit. And it's definitely to the point where I don't use these apps actively either. So it's not something that's really any hair off of my back, and I'll be happy to see Meta stock plummet. Because, yeah, at this point, fuck you, Zuck, and fuck you, Elon fuck. And, yeah, I really have nothing else to say on those two individuals. But no, going forward, I hope within the next couple episodes to actually look at the TikTok ban bill and read through it and kind of go over the more gritty details about what is in this bill. And again, kind of cover those aspects that, yeah, this is more of a focus on trying to get foreign companies to sell to the US, and is more in like some aggressive trade war-esque actions than anything. But either way, thank you all for listening to this episode of Weird Existence. I am your host, Gavin, and I hope to see you all again. Have a good new year. Goodbye.